All right, guys. So here it is. 70 Buick GS. I got it home today. Made it 4 blocks. And my wife neglected to make the turn where I did. So no brake lights, no tail lights, no signals on a busy intersection. I don't know who made it happen. I think people got the gist of it. I used my hand signals. So this thing's pretty good. This thing's in great shape. It's had your typical abuse over the years, but overall, it's a really straight car. So the reason why it's here is because this was it was a shop project, and we got busy, and it just kind of sat for over a year. And this is kind of like my thank you to the people I work for. They've been really good to me. If you guys have seen the trailer that I use when I go to the track, that's my boss's trailer. And this is like at least my little thank you to them. I'm going to be doing the body work to this thing, just making it nice and straight, getting it in primer. I'm probably going to be painting the door edges, the trunk jam. I don't know about the trunk jam. This trunk fits really good. I'm doing the bulk work pretty much, but my procedure is once all of my panels are lined up like they are now, I'm going to take the doors off. I don't know if I'm going to need to take the hood off, to be honest with you, until it has to get painted, but the hood fit great. The trunk fit great. The doors always suck because they're heavy. They're heavy doors. So, but this is the same way I did the olds when I did it in here. You can see the trunk gaps are really, really nice. This trunk fits absolutely great. A couple areas of concern are it's been patched up down here, and it's held up because it's not rusted, but it's been brazed in. It's going to need some filler, and this is a toss-up on whether I want to repatch this, or we're just going to pull out the low spots to use less filler and use what's here, because what's here is clearly was done a long time ago, where I can't think of a time where in the last 20 or even 30 years where something was brazed. This is old school, so this was done some time ago in typical A-body area. You got some rust on the wheel opening where the moldings go. That's going to have to get cut and patched up for sure. I worked on these gaps for a couple of days to get them. This is really nice. This area on all A-bodies is always goofy, and we're good until we get to about here. Now, this car was in an accident. This fender was wrinkled up. It's been super stretched. It does have a low spot here, and I'm going to probably do a skim coat of fiberglass reinforced filler to not build up the plastic as much. If you're going to do a heavy fill on a car, I'm not super ecstatic about using a lot of filler, but I worked this metal endlessly, and it's at the point where, you know what, I didn't want to stretch it out anymore. I got it about this was a lot worse. Trust me, this was way worse before. I had a bunch of holes where somebody used their T-pullers, which are like hooks, really old school technique of pulling dents out, and they just filled them in, so I actually welded them in. And of course, the area was a little low, so I just left it because I don't need to put any more heat into the metal. And of course, when it was repaired, this got crunched back, and it got pulled, but not enough. So I'm actually, from here to down here, I'm going to have to actually weld up the edge to close up this gap, because I can no longer. So you look at the gap up here, and then you look at the gap down here. They match really nice. So we're going to have to square this up, and the easiest way to do it is to weld up the fender edge. I know these cars weren't perfect, and I'm not after perfection here. This is going to be a nice driver quality job, not like, you know, super crazy fab work. I am going to have to patch up like this hole here. It's been patched down here, but it's holding up. Obviously, there's more sins down here where they used the pulling hooks. This is going to have to get welded up and filled. But these doors, the flats on the panels are actually really good. Now back here, you can see where somebody started blocking it, and you got a little bit of ripples in here. But you know what? Overall, this is going to take a minimal skim to fill it. Overall, the quarters are in really good shape. The roof has a couple of dents. It's not bad. I actually put dents in the hood, stretching it out. I'll close the hood and show you guys. The The other side is the side that looks like OE, and that's what we were looking to pretty much match. We got pictures of drinking a Red Bull. So before I get any further, this is an aftermarket core support. And I did some of this work at the shop for the reason of having a couple tools I don't have here at home and the help that I don't have at home. So I ended up taking out like 3/8 out of the core support, and you can see here where I welded it on both sides. And I'm using shims like typical GMs of the era. When I put the core support in, they accepted no shims and it was too wide in the front. I had no option but to cut it and weld it, and I got to massage this corner a little bit, grind this down, smooth it out, flow it out with a little bit of filler, and then touch it up. And we're going to be good there. So let me close this hood and show you guys the gaps. I'm pretty happy with this, but it tightens up at the front. But again, we don't know the sins that have happened with this car. I'm going to see if I can tap this and widen it up just a hair, just to make it match that. It's like a 1/16. It's not much, but that bugs me. But overall, the hood is really on point. The gaps are really nice. And I had to work for those gaps. I had to bring the doors out to match everything. And I trimmed everything out before I obviously replaced the core support. Obviously, this was a vinyl rooftop car, which we're not going to go with. So I have to fill this in with aluminum reinforced body filler. I have to weld the drip rail up and smooth it out. Even though this does take a molding, I don't like leaving the split here. I welded mine up on the olds because mine was also a vinyl top and it had that same notch there, to be totally honest with you. I don't know how common that is, but it was notched. This side has rust pitting in here, here, and I'm going to do this in small sections. Again, getting quarters or anything like that is just not what this job is going to call for. So we're going to make nice little patch panels, keep everything small, and then once everything is done, we're going to go on the inside with our wand, cavity wax the entire enclosure where this would normally gather moisture. And obviously when I cut it out, everything will get cleaned out inside. And again, this is kind of like how I did the olds, and the olds has held up for quite a long time, because even though I redid the olds 5 years ago, I just kind of finessed the bodywork that was there and any dents that it acquired. So in this reflection, you can see we got some dents, but that's no big deal. Obviously, somebody ground it before and just filled it. I'm going to pull the dents out a little bit more so I don't use as much filler. Obviously, it's tight in my garage at the moment, but you can see this gap looks good. And it opens up a little bit at the bottom, but that's how they are. I looked at a couple pictures of GS's, and then I have to patch this up as well down here. There's not a whole lot of welding that's going to have to go on this car. I'm going to break it up in sections, and as I document this, I'm going to show you guys kind of like how my game plan usually works. A lot of people will tell you to work back to front for gap purposes. If you're replacing like a quarter panel, then yes, you have to do the quarter panel, then you hang your door, you get your door gap good at the back to the quarter panel, and then you get your gap at the rocker panel nice and flat all the way across, which both sides are dead even. And then you do your fenders, and then you do your hood. But even after you put your hood on, you might have to bring the doors out, because the doors will dictate where the fenders might want to sit if it's too wide or too tight or whatever. But the goal is going to be, I'm going to attack the easiest thing first. Fenders. Why? Well, once you get some work done, you get motivated. And then it's going to be onto the doors. And then it's going to be onto the quarters. And when I do the quarters, I'll be bouncing between the quarters and the roof and stuff. And I'll do those three panels, the roof and the two quarter panels, as like one kind of a unit, where I'm going to be doing the welding in one session for one side on the other. And then when it comes down to the mud work, I'm just going to bounce around. But really, my goal is to have this car done in like 2 months or a month. I say a month, but realistically, I know what's going to happen. Stuff happens. So I'm going to say 2 months, because really, when I did the olds, I did it in the winter, and I wasn't out here like every day. It also came down to weather. This will be the first time I've ever done any body work in here, really, when it's warm out. I've always done my big projects over the winter because, you know, we got like 6 months of cold weather in the Chicagoland area, like a lot of the northern states. So I take opportunity of that. And I wanted to bring this here in the winter, but it wasn't going to happen. Work was still really busy and blah, blah, blah. So either way, the first thing that's going to get done is the fenders. And actually talking about it now, I'm probably going to take care of the hood because the hood's fairly straight. It's just the hood was actually like buckled up a little bit on that side. So I had to pull it. I used a come along and a porta power to put pressure on the corner to flatten out that hump that it had. Again, this car is very, very era correct. It's pretty much a survivor. The underbody of this car, when I have better lighting, I'll take a picture of it, but it's absolutely like it stood the test of time. And this car does not warrant, in my opinion, a full frame off type resto. It is a GS. It's optioned oddly enough with power or manual drum brakes, power steering, bench seat. And it's this blue is the right color, and it's got this blue interior. So these color combos are kind of becoming a little bit desirable. People like the oddball stuff, but this car, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, you kind of have to pick and choose how overboard you want to go on your projects. And it's much like the olds where the bodywork is really, really nice on the car. In some ways, it looks better than some like W30s that are restored. I know when I went to the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals, this is an area that always looks like crap. I welded these edges up and smoothed them out. That's over restored. And of course, over the course of twisting the body, racing, this gap closed up and, you know, it never used to hit. Now it does, you know. But overall, it's going to be much like my car where, you know, the bodywork is really straight. You got a really nice reflection. You got really nice gaps for what it is. And it's going to be just a really nice, like a really nice cruiser type resto. You know, we're not going to replace quarter panels or do major sections of replacement. We're just going to patch in the bad areas into good metal and butt weld everything. I pretty much butt weld everything. So I did patch couple of holes up here. My body line kind of ended up getting lost in here because of when I cut my patch panel. After I tacked it in place, I should have tacked my corners first while they sunk in, and I had no other choice than to kind of dip this down, but it's not much. With a little bit of filler, we'll shape this up again. Ideally, I would have liked this to go straight across and have a nice sharp line, but again, no massive amount of filler build up there, but this fender was pretty messed up, not gonna lie, but it turned out pretty good. It was really wrinkled up in here, and I managed to planish a lot of it out, and you can still see a deep crease here, but it's not gonna get any better. Somebody ground on this a lot, somebody put a lot of heat on this, and this is an original fender, original doors, so we're trying to just work with what we got because overall this car's in really good shape. So that's it. That's kind of what I'm gonna be doing here. I actually kind of look forward to it. Just as we're all kind of getting out of the pandemic phase, I need something to keep me busy. I got too used to being on the couch. So, you know, we're going to be racing, and I'm going to be daily driving the Bonneville as it's lost its garage space to this car. But we already talked about that. It's a daily driver now. And we're working on this. So actually, I'm really looking forward to it. You know, after I got everything back together on the front end and put the trunk on, I got really motivated. And, you know, to me, the hard stuff is getting the lines. And that's hard. The filler, the bodywork, pulling dents out, that's cakewalk. The patchwork is mildly complicated and sometimes complex, but we'll figure it out. So either way, guys, that's the update on that. Share, like, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram as Copper Cutlass. We're going to be working on this badass Buick, which I absolutely love. This thing drives great. I mean, I only had a 4-block drive, but dude, this drives just as good as my wife's RAV4, and it sounds great. It's quiet, but it's got a nice rumble to it. So, I'll let you guys go.